This is for the people staring out. I see you, and there's a lot of space, but look at what we've been through. See, in a bigger picture, yeah, somewhere we all fit in it. I didn't make it up, but we're all witnessing. My name is Breakout. I serve as senior manager with Full Frame Initiative, centering community and well-being. And I want to welcome you today to a grand opportunity, centering community. Imagine if only for a day we're playing trade in spaces. You see the lane we're in and we're going different places. Some work a 9 to 5, some work in destination. Don't try to cut us off. And nah, see, we ain't racing. I know a place where you can lay your bags down. You'll take a load off and you'll put away the past issues. No need for tissue. Dismissing what was done, and we're saying forgive you, not for me, save some for the kids too. Hope for tomorrow is like borrowing his shoes, knowing that you got it, so why not try it when the limit is the option? Now let's get higher off life, you knowing that you got it, so why not try it when the limit is the option? Let's get higher off life. Look how Barack Obama changed the people's minds, the Black man, the White House with his kids and his wife. I'm gonna tell you what I know, but it's for you to decide. And don't be running just for nothing. There's a place to reside, so come in, because this is for the people staring out. I see you, and there's a lot of space, but look at what we've been through. And in a bigger picture, yeah, somewhere we all fit in it. I didn't make it up, but we're all witnessing. We're all witnessing the need for communal care, the need for communal healing. And in this space, I welcome you to take in the sacred geometry, see yourself in the dream of creating liberatory technologies together. Harmonize, unify. In this space, no one is disposable. In this space, we are enough. So I welcome you to this grand opportunity to centering community. Join us, a group of leaders from across the nation who have co-created a community bill of rights to support repairing the harms and restoring a right to relationships. Good day, everyone. And like you've heard, you are welcome to Centering Community. I want to put out there the opportunity for everyone to introduce yourself in the chat. Share what role are you participating in today? Are you a community member, someone who are able to hire folks, someone who's able to support community members in doing great work? Who are you? And also take the time to let us know, where are you coming from? From the north, from the south, from the east, from the west, from the central, from the mountains. We know in this Zoom time that we get a lot of different time zones. So just drop in the chat where you're from and what you're representing today. We want to let you know that closed captioning is available. If you go down to the bottom of the screen, you go into the dots and you can see that there's closed captioning. I want to thank our interpreters for being here today and ask that everyone who is speaking speaks with a mindfulness of our interpreters. I also want to guide folks to utilize the chat for reflections. We are very intentional in utilizing a flower pot. So if you have something that you would like for us to give some thought to, but we'll take some more time in a reflective period, put FP for flower pot and put that thought into the chat. You also are welcome to put your questions in the chat, because we do want this to be an interactive moment, although we have some really great presentation planned for you all today. There is a fabulous ending and you won't want to miss it. So please do plan to stay to the very end. There's a few things that I must mention. So as you hear the word community today, it is important to understand that we define community as people who are leveraging their leadership from their lived experience of being proximate to the harms of the systemic ills. It is also important to mention that there's been great intentionality for this work to be pioneered by the leadership of lived experience, someone who's been proximate to being impacted by the systemic inequities, which is why I am serving as senior manager centering community and well-being. In the beginning of my partnership, I started off as a signer of the well-being blueprint. And in that space, we had a conversation with other signers. We asked folks about their work with lived experience in partnership with lived experience. This led to an exploratory meeting with other signers and community leaders. And we discussed matters about what matters to community and what is needed to support the work of community. This started a thoughtful invitation. We reached out to networks and engaged in 6 months of intentional work together for this community bill of rights that we're launching here today. Using my lived experience in this thoughtful process, we thought about how to navigate things like being adaptive and emergent and exercising participatory meeting practices to co-create this community bill of rights. There's intentionality behind the sacred geometry. It's to move us into exploring new mental models, shifting our way of thinking by putting the viewer of the sacred geometry in the position to think differently. There's an ancient science that explores and explains energy patterns. And so I welcome you to allow for your experience to be open to adapting to the desires, the assets, and the knowledge of community leaders. Another thing that sacred geometry does is it unifies all things. And what we know in dominant culture is that that is not a normal practice. And so we want to uplift what is it like to do things unified and in harmony. So in centering community to heal the systemic harms, it's a journey. And so what we'll recognize is that there are guideposts to support the journey. And you'll see in the presentation that there are foundational principles and a center inside of the sacred geometry, which our moderators will show more of coming up soon. And so right now, what we're going to get into is a poll exercise. And right after that poll exercise, our moderators, Shafan and Victoria, will lead us in the rest of our time together. Again, thank you, and you are welcome to Centering Community.
All right.
Hi. Do we have our poll questions ready? Maybe not the poll questions yet. Okay. And that's, oh, look at there. I don't know if you all see it pop up on your screen, but I see it on mine. Go ahead and take a moment and participate in the poll, and then be ready to hear from our moderators, Victoria and Shafat. I do hope everyone had an opportunity to engage in the poll. And now, Victoria and Chafan, take it from here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for participating in the poll. We are so excited for you to be here. We certainly appreciate your time today. And we'd like to really set the backdrop, I guess, for what we've been doing. I appreciate all the information that Lorraine provided to the group about the time frame and the timeline that we've been working on. What were some of the goals of our coming together, but truly want to just set the stage that excuse me, FFI is an organization that has made a commitment to reflect and to truly dig deep into the hope that they have and the effort that they've made to engage community. But one of the things that they were very honest about and transparent is that even they were acknowledging that what was missing is truly the community folks at the table. And so with that in mind, they have brought all of us together, invited us to be here, not just to take part in this journey as observants, as passive folks just seeing what the plans that they had. It was not this great unveiling of what they hoped that the part that we would play, but instead in their transparency said, this is what we recognize as missing, and we know that you all are the ones to fill that gap. And so with that in mind, it was a partnership that was created. And not only that, we were given full reign to own and lead what we knew as members of our community across the nation, what was missing, and what does it look like to truly not just engage the community, but to center the community. And so with that in mind, we have come together and we have talked about the challenges that we have faced in our individual lives as members of our community, what has been missing, what has worked well when we have been asked for our opinions and asked to take surveys and asked, what do we think about this new infrastructure and building coming up when we already know that the plans and the ground has already been broken? We already know that you've already made a commitment to place this grocery store here or that liquor store there, but now you want our opinion. So I think everyone is on this call may have a similar experience where they know that it's a little too late to ask for my opinion, because where will my voice make an impact? It's uncertain. I can't say that I have confidence in that. So in this space, we were truly given an opportunity to make a tangible and actionable plan for how we are going to move through future endeavors and engagements with folks who have project ideas and propositions for our community. This is now a blueprint that we are going to be holding these entities accountable to, of how they will truly not just brush elbows with community members, parlay a little with community members, but be truly and authentically committed to centering the community voice. And that starts with the community members, not end with us. We are not a footnote. We are a crucial and critical part and should be in the very fabric, in the foundation of the work that you hope to bring to our community. And so as we consider how this can be used universally as a blueprint, it is each and every one of us, even on this call, who has access to say, this is what I'm asking of you, and this is what I'm holding you to. This community bill of rights. This is what I am going to be grading you on. This is what I'll hold you accountable to. And so it can easily be used when we think about all of the many projects, whether that's in the nonprofit sector or for-profit sector, if that's at the city level or the state level, as they shift the infrastructure and they consider all of the changes that they hope to make in our communities. We truly now have a tool that we can say, this is what the standard is. How well are you doing when pitted against this? Not your own grade book, And so we've talked a little bit, thrown around terms about community engagement or versus centering community. And I've also shared a little bit, and I see someone talking about, we're talking about these are the keywords. This is a blueprint for how we expect you to conduct yourself, placing us at the forefront, in the onset. You're asking us what we really think about it, not just to check off a box, but to say, I'm committed to pivot from whatever I thought was best. I'm willing to change the trajectory of what I assumed the outcome would be because I've heard from you. Now that places power really where it lies, which is saying, this is what the community said they want or don't want, and now I will act based on that, not in spite of that. So as we think about how this can transcend the relationships with city officials and nonprofit leaders and even grassroots organizations who are just trying to make a change, there's still a universal standard that we can go off of. So I hope that that gives some insight to how we've been spending our time. And I want to just be clear that FFI has been in full support and have taken their role very seriously as the support and allowed us to lead this, to own this. And I'm grateful for that. So I'd like to turn it over to Chiffon. And if you wanted to proceed and hand it over to you.
That was amazing, Victoria. I don't know how I can follow that up, but thank you so much for presenting that to everyone. My name is Jasmine Chiffon. I do go by Chiffon. I am a lived experience member within the community that was honored to take part in creating this platform for everyone who's here to understand what the community needs directly from people in the community. At this very moment, I'm going to take some time to just kind of review our poll, just to kind of see where we're at and get an idea of how our spaces are within our community. So right now I'm showing on the call that a lot of individuals here with us are representing nonprofit organizations. Definitely throw in the chat if you're open to sharing that information for us, so that we can also engage with your organization and partner if possible with other individuals and organizations as well. I see that we have a small percent of government officials here with us, so we would like to thank you for your time. We definitely know that it is a busy week with Election Day being tomorrow, so we do thank you for your time and joining us. For the small group of philanthropists, as Victoria had expressed, we appreciate you being here and we appreciate you seeing the work that we have put into. And this work we took very seriously, each and every one of us who played our part into creating this. I am showing that we have a large amount of community members here with us. So we would like to thank everyone who has been invited, who has decided to come and join us. And then we do have a little group of individuals who are interested in knowing what we do and how they may be able to take part and join and facilitate the information that we have presented here today. So looks like, based off of the responses, we all can use some help within the community, whether it's with homelessness, mental health illnesses, child welfare, you name it. It is clear today that we need assistance. So it is in our hope that upon completion of this presentation that we are able to take back to leaders who were not here with us today and to share the information. So as the time begins to develop, we all can start working together and get the help that we need, because it is clear that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, even though some may be doing well. As we proceed throughout this process, I would like to go ahead and introduce our other co-authors who are going to be a part of our panel. And I do apologize. If we could have, give me one moment. So if we could have real quick, Linda, I do show that you have a question, so please go ahead.
Actually, I thought I was taking my hand down. I didn't know I was putting it up. So that was an accident.
No problem.
you
We
hear-
we were waiting.
Great. So sorry. See you down now. I have no question.
So we have a couple of the authors that were a part of this project. So anyone, you're more than welcome to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Shemeka Ebony. I am hailing from North Carolina. I am one of the co-authors. I am the founder and lead facilitator in Shemeka Ebony Firm, where we center community engagement. I'm passionate about being connected to this because it is something that I've been working on for years in various capacities. So to stand with these incredible leaders across the country and amplify stewardship of our rights as we show up in organizations is very important to me, and that's what brings me to the table today.
Thank you, Shemeka.
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever this time finds you at. My name is Patrick McNeil. I'm the director of the North Flint Neighborhood Action Council. I am excited about being here today, having the opportunity to work with these co-creators on this piece of history that we laid down, and really just appreciative of you being here, and really look forward to hearing your thoughts and just dialoguing with one another as we continue to create spaces for everyone to be represented. Thank you and welcome again for being.
Hi there, I'm Jennifer Olson. I live in Skowhegan, Maine. And thank you all for showing up today. This is really important work, and I'm so grateful to be with all of you. I've seen both nonprofits not get it quite right in terms of community engagement, and I've been on the side of the community trying to see something happen and having the local government not get it quite right. And I've also been in a position on a nonprofit where we missed the mark. And so from my longing for like a more just and joyous world, it brought me to this opportunity. And I'm so proud of the process that we went through. And I'm so excited to be here with you today. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, okay.
Oh, wait. Oh, go ahead. Who is that?
I'm Tiffany.
Oh, go ahead, Tiffany.
Hi, Malika. I'm Tiffany Wilson. I am in Tacoma, Washington. I am a singer, songwriter, and teaching artist. I often advocate for the youth in my part of the world here to be centered and thought about inside of the community decisions and activities and programs available to them. Very honored to be a part of this project and this work. And it has absolutely been an act of, I think, love on all of our parts. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Malika Garner. I am in Detroit, Michigan. So glad to be with everyone here today and to see all of you here in support of this amazing effort. I'm also one of the co-authors for the Community Bill of Rights. And this is just a really great opportunity for me, as I see it, as a Black breastfeeding and maternal child health advocate here in the city of Detroit. And beyond, I really envision this as the others have said, right, this opportunity for us to have a blueprint, a foundation, and a pathway to truly centering community in a way that values the expertise, the lived experiences, the knowledge, and the passion that community has. So thank you for having me as well.
Hi everyone. My name is Desmond Mohammed, also known as Des. I'm over in the Los Angeles area with Lorraine and Brother Philip Lester, and we do a lot of community work as far as like the social change and gang related activity, in addition to cooperative group education and stuff as far as like investing as a community. So I appreciate everybody staying dedicated to their hopes and desires as far as those things in which will make changes behind the scenes. So we appreciate everyone for being here, and we appreciate everyone for being themselves and seeking to progress. And we look forward to this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brooke Evans. My pronouns are she, her. You'll see me on the side as the hype woman today. I'm so terribly proud to be a co-author among the best of co-authors here, building the Community Bill of Rights for you today. I've been working in the sphere of housing justice, basic needs justice for about 10 years, having been an impacted person myself, in college, out of college, and have very much focused my effort on ensuring that folks from our community are enfranchised to take the next step in their lives to access things like education, building businesses, often those dignity of risk opportunities we aren't often provided. So thank you so much for having me, and I'll pass to the next co-author.
I just wanted to acknowledge that all of our co-authors are not present here today physically, but they are present in spirit. They have contributed a much thoughtful voice and heart's desire for this work to look different. And if you go on to the landing page, I just put it in the chat, you can go down to a slot there where it says meet the co-authors, and you can look at who they are and the work that they're up to in the world. And I'm going to just hand it right back over to our moderators. I look forward to hearing more from the panelist conversation.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. So as we get ready to proceed, Victoria, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes. So at this time, we wanted to take a look at the document in particular and just highlight some of the visuals that you see there. I hope that that is something that grabs your attention. And as Lorraine mentioned even earlier, this was very intentional with the images that we selected for this document. And so in particular, if you scroll to the next page, I'd like to highlight, I think it's really the third page. Yes, thank you. I'd like to highlight the visual for relational integrity. And so in this document, we have outlined what each of these, they look like petals even, signify, mean to us, and what it looks like in this work. And so I definitely and certainly welcome you to take a deep dive in this document and spend some time with it. But as you can see from the visual, everything truly is interconnected. And each of the outside of the ring or the petals, they all support fully what centering community really looks like. And I just would like to uplift that these components are what was a part of even our journey in participating in this work to get to this. We talked about what fair compensation looks like. We talked about what does being mindful of the language. There was a lot of writing and rewriting of really scrutinizing the words and the language that we use when we are speaking to one another, but even specifically speaking about this topic. And as you continue, as you look at this document, the hope is that you will see specifically and particularly things that stand out to you that you can carry into the spaces that you occupy when having this discussion with others about how they can do better with centering community. And certainly even in your personal lives or your own personal work, consider how do you find yourself in this document in the work that you do. So I think that right now we would like to move forward with the panelist discussion to make sure that we allow time for that. So Shafana, turn it back over.
Thank you. So we are going to get ready to begin our panelist discussion. That discussion includes the following members: Mr. Philip Rock Lester, Patrick McNeil, Desmond Muhammad, Shamika Ebony Stewart Isaacs, and Tiffany Wilsons. I'm going to introduce them, and if you guys can just introduce yourselves and tell us what brings you to this work, and give us a little bit of your feedback on what we've been doing and share it with the audience.
So, there's a beautiful thing called silence when people ain't decided who wants to go first yet. So it looks like I've been appointed to that position. So again, Patrick McNeil, Flint, Michigan. And I always like to say what brought me to this work was my sister. My sister was murdered 2 days after my daughter was born. And she was supposed to be over my house, but hadn't made it there yet. And I remember her concern for community was different. She was a social worker by trade, but she was just a community mother in deed and action. She helped whoever she could help. She would give whatever she could give. And she would share in a way that people could understand and get. And her word for a lot of people was, you're better than the stuff you're doing. And I think sometimes what happens is that those who have had the privilege of escaping poverty or escaping situations where they now on the other side of it, forget that they still have to come back and continue to help those who still find themselves there. Sure, I wish I had a bootstrap to pull myself up by, but there isn't no such thing. So it is my hope that during our time today and during what we learned on here is that we all brought those lessons, those heartaches, those pains, even the loss of loved ones to this work to help others to see that there are gems, there are diamonds that just need to be cleaned off so that others can get the opportunity to escape their zip code, to escape their situation. There are more people who are looking for a way out than want to stay in. And what we need is more people who are without to help those within to do just so.
Hi, again, my name is Tiffany Wilson. I am a singer-songwriter, teaching artist here in Washington State. What brought me to this work was going into a lot of our inner city schools, and then even going into some of the schools that were not considered inner city, and seeing the disparities between the two, seeing who got the resources, seeing who didn't, and wondering who was speaking up for such youth that was going without. Also not seeing enough of me inside of schools, or those who look like me inside of the schools with students who looked like me. And so I am happy to be a part of this because, again, it gives me the ability to learn the language, to have a seat at these tables and advocate for the children who are going without. I think that, again, as our children being our future, that they too have voices that could contribute to the decisions made about their schools, their education, their teachers, their resources, the activities they wish to participate in. And I have become hopefully a voice for their demographic.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Shemeka Ebony here. I would just love to amplify the guidepost or connecting back to the Bill of Rights. What brought me here is the meaningful investment and the commitment to healing. I believe that in order for us to create sustainable outcomes, we cannot ignore the harms that have come to put us in the positions, locked in the systems, and oppressed by the systems that we are looking to help us and support us. And so it's these pillars that within the Community Bill of Rights that speak to me and my journey of what I've been advocating for over the past 7 years around amplifying our value as lived experience experts and helping community leaders like those on this call amplify their power in standing in the value connected to what they survived, what we've survived, and finding ways to help translate what that is to organizations wanting to work with us by allowing us space to heal, giving us access to the tools and resources needed to heal so that we can create those sustainable outcomes that we see ourselves in.
Thank you so much, everyone. So if we can kind of go give our audience a little bit more details. So as we look at the Bill of Rights, there's a particular section where we have pillars that describe how we feel most about them and how we relate to these. So Shemeka, if you could start off by just picking out one of those and, giving the audience more so a little bit of detail of how that connects with you. Personally, maybe if it's one that you selected as we put it together, and just kind of give us some detail as far as why you've selected it.
Absolutely. What I'd like to center and amplify is our pillar that really amplifies fair compensation. Too often, us as community leaders have been in spaces and not had our voices honored and valued. We've had information extracted from us, and the only appreciation we may get is maybe in the form of a gift card or a thank you or a bus pass. When in fact, the richness and the value of what we share at the table and the information that informs these organizations, institutions, allows them to eat off of for years and years to come. It allows them to raise funds. Philanthropic organizations fund the stories that we tell and our narratives that are present. And so for me, fair compensation was very important. Not only that we take a way to honor what we bring to the table, what we've survived, but those organizational leaders and community leaders like us that have found solutions and practices and ways of being that work, that we're fairly compensated for our knowledge and our experiences and expertise in a way that's equitable in creating sustainable outcomes for us economically in our community, as well as those organizational partners that we're working with.
Thank you so much. And before we move on to the next panelist, just want to do a little quick temperature check. If everybody can, I don't know, send something in the chat, one word of how you're feeling today thus far, of the information that we've delivered to you. In addition, just overall, it's a Monday. I don't know about you guys, but my Monday's been a little bit hectic on top of, preparing for our launch. I know a lot of us have been preparing for elections and I've been working really hard on campaigning. So if anyone can just throw out in the chat, just one word, how are you feeling this Monday? Exhausted, excited, overwhelmed, just so we can figure out how we're going to get ready to move forward with everyone collectively. Hopeful, lots of hopefuls. That's very exciting. Lots of hopefuls. I love your optimism, Jen. Excited. And we're thankful for that you guys came into our space to join the discussion, to hear all the work that we've put into, and to take that back to your community to see how you can engage all the information that we've provided with you, with the individuals, and help enhance the community that you're living in. So we are going to get ready to do a quick pivot to Mr. Patrick. Mr. McNeil, if you could give us a little bit of details on your position in the pillars and what relates most to you that you feel is most important to the community audience that we have.
Well, thank you so much. So first and foremost, there's no such thing as important, right? The thing is, they all important. The document itself is important. And so I want to make sure that I don't believe in putting a hierarchy on it, because what ends up happening, if that's the case, people can pick and choose. And that's what happens way too often. People pick and choose the moments in which they desire to live the thing up that they can tolerate while leaving the intolerable alone. So we're going to lift this whole document up today. And so for me, the one that I would like to raise up for our thought is this idea of shared power, right? So one of the things that happens is that all the power is with the funder. Now, I've been around the corner and over the meadow and through the woods as well. So I understand that the power resides in the person who gives the funding, because he who donates the dollars makes the rules in how the dollars can be allocated in community. And that's okay. But I also realize that most funders give the person who wrote the narrative and their program idea the opportunity to decide what that looks like before they say yes. And too often, they say what's good for them, not what's good for community. I always like to give examples because I like to rest my work in my real and not in what I made up. I was in a meeting, and in this meeting, there were people who was making a decision on whether or not to give funding to homeowners who needed to have their roofs and houses fixed up. Many of you know the conundrum about home loans, right? The problem is I can't get insurance on my house because I got a hole in my roof, right? And because I got a hole in my roof, and then so you won't help me because of that. Then the funder says if you don't have insurance, you can't get the funds. Well, I'm in a 6 on one hand, half a dozen situation. So while we were there, they were looking at one of the better blocks in our community, and one of the bankers said, "How many of you would live on this block?" And to the one, I was the only one who raised my hand, probably because I had lived on that block growing up. And so nobody would live there. And then I said, we have the wrong people in the room. Because if you're not going to live there, why are you making decisions for there? You want to bring, and so these are things we have to take into consideration as we're putting this work together, right? And this is why if you're not going to be the most impacted by it, you might not be the person who should have the most decision-making ability on what impact it would have. And this is why I'm a firm believer in shared power, because it is the only thing that addresses the inequity and imbalances in power, and it gives priority to the community closest to the harms, right? Your neighborhood is still going to be the same, but you could make a big difference in this neighborhood by seeing someone who has the word that kept popping up, hopeful, hopeful. You see, these people didn't leave when everybody else left. They stayed. And now that we're entering into seasons and situations where gentrification seems to be the modality that we want to work in, all of a sudden, the city ain't a bad place to live no more. But you'll give the money to someone who just showed up, and you won't help the people who wouldn't leave, probably because they didn't have anywhere to go, and the only investment they had was that house that was valued at nothing. So I say all that to say that for me, I want to see the balance restored. I want to see people trust community to make the best decision it can for it. I want to see organizations begin to lead from the middle and lead from behind and let the residents decide what they want to go. I want to see people who are willing to tell the truth that you don't really know what's going to happen. When you go into community and you start doing this work and you allow that work to form and shape itself into something that could be life-altering and changing. Because when you teach people how to do for themselves, then you've created the ability for them to continue to do for themselves. So that's my hope. My hope is that someone would grab hold to the idea and recognize that because I'm poor doesn't mean I can't handle money. It just simply means I don't have any money.
Thank you, Patrick. Vote for McNeil 2024. Can we hold up an offering? I mean, one of the two's got to happen before the end of this call. We got to confirm that. Thank you. And that is the passion for our audience. That is the passion that we've been working on. That is the passion that we've been thriving on these last 6 or so months regarding this. I want to go ahead and pass it over to Ms. Tiffany so she can give us her portion of the pillar that she is most connects with.
I most connect with mindful language. I think it is very often, I'm sure, not to bring religion or anything into it, but one thing that sticks to me was that God is not the author of confusion. And a lot of times there is a language that is used that flies over the heads of even myself at times, others. There's a language that is used to shrink people's courage and personal power. And so it really is important to me that we, in our language, are intentional. We often hear, oh, a nice person. We hear things like, I didn't intend to be rude. And I believe the intent should be, I intend to be loving. I intend to be kind. I intend to be humble. Because when we put that in front of our actions, then it doesn't give us much room for why it didn't show up. If we're working towards being loving in our words, in our communication with others, we want to bring everyone in. I think we'll choose our words carefully so that that is the end result. And so that is what connects most with me, is that intentional language and leading with humility. And like, I guess that, sorry. So that is that's where I connect most.
Thank you, Tiffany. I am going to take over a role. We had a couple panelists who unfortunately weren't here with us today. So I wanted to give my portion while we have a little bit of time, and then I will wrap it up with Miss Victoria, and I hope that she will be able to share her portion that may not have been able to be covered by some of our panelists that were unfortunately unable to make it today. So my portion that I relate to wholeheartedly is the historical honoring. To be honest, I have a foundational honor. A lot of people may pick and choose their political choice, but my political choice isn't based off of red or blue, but it is based off of the foundation that this country was founded on, and that is families. As I introduced myself, I do have lived experience within the community. I am actually a survivor of the child welfare system. I have a total of 5 children, and 3 of my children, my rights were terminated due to the fact that I made a conscious decision to keep my family together. My family would be included in the neglect form of the many families who are a part of this system. So when it comes to the historical honoring, I was affected because something that I am familiar with, which is law, and something that I was involved in at the time, which was dealing with the law, was that they also respected the same ideas that I did. And none of the caseworkers throughout my case respected the idea of how man, woman, and child, and everything that my culture and the people that identify in my culture did not have. I did not have a father growing up, and my children's father did not have a father growing up. And as you see, that's a constant generational curse that has not been broken. And my attempt to break that generational curse cost me my family. And it is important for me to express to the audience how important it is to us in the community that we need our family. And so often we have seen the system working at its finest, doing exactly as it's supposed to do, separating the family, removing the father from the home, and allowing the family to continue on a cycle of welfare and not being able to prosper. So my connection with historical honoring that I hope everyone here is able to take in and be on the same page with, which is understanding how important we need our families, understanding how important these children need their, not just their mother, but their father. You know, I can be a single mom. Yeah, of course. My son can be raised by me and go to college and be smart and all the things that he needs, but I can't teach him how to be a man. And as long as I have that availability to my son, I will always honor his needs of having his father in his life. And I will stand by that position, even though that position has cost me my family temporarily. So in the meantime, I would like to turn it over to Victoria, who will express her portion and wrap us up with our panel discussion.
Thank you, Chiffon. I'm just really blessed to hear all of the responses so far, and I certainly hope that the audience feels the same. I would say one of the things, and as Patrick said, it's all good. It's all good. But one of the things that really touches me is the relational integrity. That statement, those just those two words to me is such a reflection of what we are working for, that there's a relationship there that can be trusted, a relationship there that you want to be a part of, right? Every relationship is not something that you want to be in. Some people are trapped or feel confined, restricted, or otherwise feel like they are obligated. And when you think about when I think about being a part of my community, and I think about my 6-year-old being a 5th generation property owner, I get excited about the community in which I come from, the neighborhood that I'm in. And it is a tragedy to think that something outside of my community can come in and make decisions that will upheave the roots that we have laid down. And so it definitely and certainly, they are so interconnected. It's very hard to speak of one in isolation, but all of this together, I like that the relational integrity really ties it all in, because in order to build relationships, again, there has to be that trust. There also has to be common ground. And when I think about the Community Bill of Rights, I really do think about how, again, this is a blueprint, a baseline, the foundation. This is on the onset. This is not the aftermath. This is what we're using to enter into a space in the appropriate way, instead of trying to correct the foolishness and the mistakes and the inconsiderations that have happened up until this point. So I certainly am just really grateful for the way that this is put together, and hold the opportunity to hold entities accountable for the integrity that we are expecting of them, the integrity with which they will approach us, engage with us, and give us the space as community members to speak to what we know, not what we think. What we know are the components of success, of longevity, things that will support the family structure in our communities, that things that will support generational growth, generational success. This is what we've lost, right? All too often is, like Chiffon was speaking about, the generational power. This is long lasting, overflowing, ever giving, that just keeps compounding, that if at any point it's cut off, you've got to start over. And so I am just very grateful for this opportunity to be here. And I'd like to open it up. I know, Shafan, you told me I had a certain time, but I can't run the clock. So I do want to open it up if there is any other co-authors. I know that we're still listed on a panel list that, you know, is still time for you to hop on. Was there anyone else that wanted to call out which part of the Community Bill of Rights that really touches your heart or touches your interest?
Des, did I see your hand up? Hey, hey.
Oh yeah, that was me. First I wanted to say to Victoria, we really appreciate everything that you do. You represent a mother in the community, just like the other women here that definitely show us growth over a certain period of time as far as how our children learn directly from the good source. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, so the thing that stuck out to me most, I just want to say quickly, is government. And I think that's what men represent as far as values, how we want to expand and continue to reproduce and protect women. So I think government plays a role as to what we go to school for, because we continue to go to school in the ways that we traditionally view it, you know, from our experiences as a collective group of people. Sometimes it can affect people differently. People feel as if they don't have a purpose. So the essential things such as math is not being used. So government is very important, and I believe that's what men perpetuate. So we appreciate everybody.
Thank you so much, Des, for wrapping up that panel discussion. Before we proceed to our next agenda, do we have any questions or concerns or comments thus far from the audience? Feel free to raise your hand or throw the question in the chat, and we will be happy to elaborate and, you know, go on with any explanation that may be necessary. Since there are...
I have a question, and I know it may sit different because I was a part of the process, but I'd like to hear from any one of you all who are part of the co-author experience. What made the difference about this co-creation being led by someone with lived experience opposed to it being led by just another system or situational leader? What was different about this co-creation process?
This co-creation process is not solely driven by money, but of course the money is a means in which we have to move forward. But I think it's integrity and trueness to it.
Hey, I'll chime in and agree with what Des said. Something that stood out to me that was special is that we had a language that we could read through screens. We had a common experience that no matter how we were showing up, we could connect. Like, it's the most powerful thing I've seen in operation. But I know that lived experience expertise being welcome gave us what we needed to show up fully and authentically. I don't take it lightly that being in that environment is a privilege because we didn't have to use words. We use eye contact. We use head nods. We could laugh at stuff that was totally insider because we have that shared experience of what it feels like to see community engagement done wrong and to help fuel us to make sure that we give some support in making sure that we could get it right together.
I'm going to have to piggyback off of the both of you because, yeah, not just the financial aspect, but we had a phenomenal facilitator who made us feel comfortable and connected and got us the opportunity to open up, let down our guards, expose the things that are the most I would say secretive. Secretive is not the word, but the most private information, and made it comfortable to share. I believe we have a couple of our co-authors that was in a breakout room where I was bawling. An event had happened in America, and it had just hurt. And I believe it was the Texas incident. And our facilitator just made the whole connection. Every meeting that we jumped into, it was like jumping into family. I'm not known to many people in the community as Jasmine. I'm known by Chiffon, but everybody calls me Jasmine now because we're family. So made in such a way that I can't even describe it. And I just look forward to being with my family this time next year, talking about how our city has been building off of what we got together and created.
I too had thought it was a very safe space. One thing I find when I've worked with youth all over the place, but I find what even the children respect sometimes when you can say, hey, I've been there. And it's, I find it easier to trust what's coming out of their mouth when I can know they've put themselves in my shoes, or they know how, or that they can offer the ability to understand and handle with care because of that. So I thought it was a very safe space, especially for me, who is learning more of what most of these veterans already know when advocating for others. So it felt very safe to be quiet at times and just listen and learn and soak up the plethora and the multitude of wisdom that flowed through all of these conversations. It was definitely a new type of university for me. I'm very grateful for the ability to have been included amongst really brilliant individuals.
And I see here in the chat that we have a question. One of those questions is, what would the authors like for the impact of the launch to be? And he said it as I was thinking it, and that's going to be change. Severe change is what is necessary in order to be able to really show that this project that we've been working on was meaningful to my position. Thank you so much for your question, Phyllis. Are there any other questions before we get ready to proceed? I see another question. I want to be able to introduce this with others in my work group and be comfortable speaking on it. Would any of you be able to assist me? Of course we would. Right now, at the end, we will definitely make sure that we have a way for us to communicate with everyone. So that way, once we're ready to move forward, or if more information is needed for you to engage with your community, we can provide you with that. Are there any other questions? Let's see. Matthew wants to know, what do you think will be the biggest hill to get over when bringing this out into the field? Personally, I believe that the biggest impact or the biggest heal would be money. Everything revolves around money. Quick example, in Arizona, we have a high parental termination rate. We also receive the highest funding for adoption. So hence why they are so pushing for parental rights to be terminated. That's because they get $127 million in kickbacks for adoptions through the Children's Bureau. So I believe that implementing something like this and creating a barrier for my state to receive money, that's one of my big hills that we have back in our community. And that is the fact that they receive much more funding from the federal government that they benefit from. Unfortunately, the families don't benefit from it, but the departments and agencies definitely do, as well as the state. And it looks like Sonia has a question. How do we like to move this document forward to facilitate change? Well, as we get ready to wrap up towards the end of the call, we'll further discuss about delivering the information to government officials, especially now that the election will be over this week, and we'll be able to appropriately facilitate this information so that we can discuss with them and work with them how we need to make this change. And I'm going to now turn this back over to Lorraine.
Yes, and one thing that we want to let folks know is that the Community Bill of Rights is not under the ownership of just the co-authors. We were very thoughtful in how this document can support a right to integral relationships for anyone in community. So as you're looking at who's in your sphere of networks, who's in your constellation, whether you're a situational or system leader, you may not want to tap on someone who directly receives services, but you may want to tap on someone who is receiving services in the similar genre of the work that you do. And you may want to ask them to come in as an advisor and do a Community Bill of Rights deeper dive and learn from one another. That's what it's more about. Community members can make adjustments to the document. If you are not someone who is proximate to the harms of systemic ills, please do not make any adjustments to the document. But if you are living in a community and you are noticing that some of these things that are listed in the guidepost needs adjusting, feel free to do so. That's what it's designed for. It's designed to live many generations beyond this conversation. And right now, prior to our preparing to get into breakout sessions, I want folks to give a moment to think. Think about partnerships. What are they good for? Who are your partners? When you hear the term partnerships and you think about something that was lifted up from the guidepost of sharing power, how do you see this Community Bill of Rights being able to support and shift power dynamics so that community members are being brought in as partners? So when we're thinking about engaging community and centering community, one thing that we like to be very explicit about is that if you're centering the community, they are your partners. They're not just a one-off, not a footnote. We heard that before. So I want to open it up right now to hear voices from all audience members and co-authors, but really if you are someone who holds positional power to hire or to design programs, how do you see a Community Bill of Rights supporting that process of sharing power so that the relationships that you have with community is seen through a partnership lens and not an engagement lens? And there's no wrong answer. So don't spend too much time in your thinking space. Come off mute and talk to us. So I am seeing some stuff in the chat here.
I thought you wanted us to speak verbally. Never mind.
Yes, I do. Please. I want you to speak verbally.
One of the things that, I apologize because I missed part of the conversation. I had an emergency call. We are all in this together. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we have to recognize that there's only one race, and that's the human race. And because of that, our connections should be just as strong. You know, we have to use love in everything that we do. and everything that we share. It's very important that we understand that we are all working for the same result. And that's for the equality that we need, the elimination of racism, the children in particular, to give them a new avenue, a new way to go, because our babies learn from us. And if we're not cohesive and not going around doing what we should be doing, we're not helping our babies. And too many of them are going to jail for nothing because they've been lost. I'm so happy to see a lot of males that are here. That's another avenue that they must take responsibility and get out and lead, especially with the boys. It's very important. So we're in a big partnership. Okay, we're in a very big partnership nationwide. And we have to remember that each of us can give some more information to the other to be shared and to grow stronger than what we have been. Thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Thank you much for sharing. Is there anyone else who would love to come off of mute and share what it is that you're thinking in the way the Community Bill of Rights can support the sharing of power when it comes to partnering with community leaders? Why is it that we need something to support sharing power? What has power dynamics looked like thus far? And it's not something that you have to answer right now, but it's something that I would love for you to consider. So what we have in this space today, when we seen the poll, was there was a large representation of people who are identifying that they're here as an individual, people who are from community, people who have that individual interest, but there's a very low number of representation from philanthropic partners. Why is it that that partnership in spaces when it comes to community is usually very low? How can we change that? How can we utilize the Community Bill of Rights to change the way that that shows up and the way that that happens? What we know is that it is important to pay attention to the power dynamics. We know that it's important to heal the harms, and the way to do that is relationally, being committed to relationships. I'm being moved right now to tell a story. That's what I do. I tell stories. Recently at the Smithsonian African American Museum, we were able to sit down at the counter. And sitting down at the counter, we were able to pull up a menu and participate in different activities that the integration of schools looked like back in those times. And I started to think about my role as someone who represents community, still living very close to the proximity of the harms. I mean, so close that just yesterday, driving down the street, I seen a boy and a girl fighting. And I know that it wasn't because they just want to fight each other. I know that there's some systemic structural issues lying underneath their anger and aggression. And I had to pull over and I had to have a conversation with them and let them know, look, people in the world love you and we're here for you. And we know you're working through some stuff. And that's the reality. But yet I sit in spaces that have brought me to the table and they truly have the heart to want to do the work. And sometimes I still feel like I am being taunted by those that participated in watering folks down while they were sitting there at the counter. So have you integrated your space and said you want to have partnerships with people at the table who are representing of their community experience and their leadership, and have you watered them down with a hose, whether it be by your behaviors, your lack of care, your deeply ingrained practices to prioritize processes over relationships. And this is what we want to do. We want to partner so that these dynamics will change. Right now, I'm just going to throw out an opportunity for folks who do represent community. Please do right now, utilize the chat, put your emails, your contact information into the chat. If you are someone who identify as a community leader, someone most proximate to the harms, put your information into the chat. We just want to highlight that community members are here and they're present. Put your emails into the chat. There's a strategy behind this. If you identify yourself as a community member, put your email in the chat. And I'm asking you to do this because as we have folks from government, as we have folks who are situational leaders and system leaders, what I'd like for you all to do is take note of the information of our community members who are in the chat. Because right now, after this call, you can embody the Community Bill of Rights and start to hold conversations that will shift the power and start to heal the harms. It's a start. So I'm seeing a lot of emails go into the chat. Again, our leaders who have power and privilege to change things, funding, designing programs, hiring folks, pay attention to these emails that are going into the chat. And be ready to reach out to some folks after this call and engage in a conversation for Community Bill of Rights. So now I guess it's time for folks who are, and I'm gonna call on your courage, I'm gonna call on your bravery. If you brave enough to really engage in some relationships for systemic transformation, with your power and your privilege, put your email into the chat. And so that folks from community can directly reach out to you and hold accountability to the conversation of let's engage in enacting and adhering to the Community Bill of Rights. This is a wonderful opportunity. I'm behave and I'm keep us on track. We do have some breakout rooms planned for you all, and I'm going to pass it to our brilliant moderators to prepare for us to know what are we doing in our breakouts. Moderators, take it from here. Thank you all so very much.
Peace and blessings, Shemeka Ebony here, and I will be stepping up to talk to you about what comes next with our breakout rooms. Hopefully by now you've had an opportunity to review the Community Bill of Rights, see the offerings, hear the energy from the co-authors that have given you their why stories, their origin stories, their connection to this work as we have not only found ourselves in it, but we intentionally put ourselves in it. With our breakout room opportunity, we're going to be having deep conversations around how you see yourself taking this Bill of Rights and taking it back to your organization or community. You know, what's possible. We have some incredible facilitators. You'll see Jen, who's a co-author, myself, Lorraine, Jasmine, Patrick, Madge, Lotus, and Zach. And we'll be stepping into a place to not only facilitate these conversations around what's possible, but also giving space to answer questions that you may still have circling around that you may not have shared openly in a larger group. So as we take this time to go into these smaller groups, just think about words or phrases that may be sticking out that you've heard that have been lifting up through the Bill of Rights. Think about your own story, your own experiences where this kind of thinking would have been helpful, but it may not have existed. And then also thinking of things that you can put into practice from this process and shared leadership and decision-making to create that sustainable change that you want to see. We also ask that in these breakout rooms, you take a moment to really consider meaningfully what is foraging in the flower pots. If that's some time that you can go in and answer those questions and have a deeper conversation with the facilitators, lift up those questions. This breakout time is for us to take those deeper dives. So I encourage you, if you haven't thought of your question yet, be thinking of it now so that we can really maximize this opportunity to build intentionally. Some of you we may not see again. Some of you we may not talk again. So get this information while it's here. Ask those questions that are circling around, and there's no question too hard. There's no question too off. We're here, and this is a judgment-free space that we're building and co-designing in these breakout rooms, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. I'll yield it back to our
Okay, I had to get on another computer so that I can hear better and see better. And so I was in group 2.
Okay, I can reassign you to 2.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Would you like interpretation, ASL interpretation while you're in there? We can have Theodore join group 2 as well.
Yeah, I would like it. I'm definitely trying to get used to this.
Great.
Perfect. Yeah, I can send him there too.
Thank you.
It's amazing how quickly the number of participants dropped as soon as we mentioned the word breakouts.
That's too bad, but I think they'll have some good conversations.
Can you send me with Theodore? Usually you have to just keep us together. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh,
does she need our services, or I'm sorry, I missed that. She's
Yes.
using us? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll move you to room 2.
Should we pause the recording so there's less of a big gap to edit, or does it?
We can.
Hey, Shafan, I think you on mute.
Yes, thank you so much for catching that. So I'd like to welcome everybody back from our breakout rooms, and I hope you guys had wonderful discussions. If we can start off with some of our moderators or some of our facilitators of those breakout rooms, just to sort of reflect and go over the things that were discussed and some of the flower pots and seeds that we put in there so we can start growing them in our community. So I want to start off with Jen. If you can reflect and share with us as far as what you guys spoke about in the breakout room.
Thanks, Stefan. We had kind of a round table introduction where we heard about folks who are doing great work all across the country, really, and that there are issues where folks are working with situations of safety at home and breastfeeding and safe drinking water and workforce development. And someone expressed this phrase, sad but beautifully, the weariness of chipping away at systems that are already causing harms. That the system itself and the culture itself doesn't lend itself to change. And also the importance of, I heard this more than one time, of decentering white women in a lot of these conversations, and how important that is to understand that more voices are necessary and needed and welcome for change. So that's part of what I heard. And when I heard about folks who are in systems and facing pushback, you know, that it just begs the question for me is like, what are we afraid of in sharing power, and what can be lost when we share power? I wonder about that. Like, what are we losing when we share our power? Thank you. I think I'm complete, but I would invite anybody who is in the breakout room with me to correct me and or add something more to that conversation. Thank you. I'm complete.
I just want to add cultural PTSD. Let me say that again. Workforce cultural systematic PTSD.
Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing your group. The next group is Shemeka. What did you guys' group discuss?
Our group, it was really helpful to hear feedback. We had a representation of grant managers, community experts, nonprofit organizational leaders, and some of the things that came up is how do we move this from theory to practice? So the concern about, how to get started or needing that extra support to not cause harm when looking to implement this within organizational structure and existing policy. And so that was something that was helpful to kind of ground us on, before jumping into next steps, making sure that there's a good strategy on how to get some extra support. And I think that'll be talked about later, but that was something that did come up within the group is, what does this look like in practice so that we don't continue to perpetuate harm? And if there's someone that wanted to add to that from the group, I'll yield the remainder of my time to you.
Ms. LeRae, what about your group and its members?
Yeah, I was going to put in the chat to be mindful of time, but our breakout room paid attention to the ways that we get to uphold integral relationships, how there is risk involved of harm still happening to folks who are making it very clear that they've been harmed, and there's been a way of negating or loss of acknowledgement from those who are doing the harm. And the other thing was really utilizing the Community Bill of Rights to shift power dynamics and support the redefining of ourselves, letting the identities hold different meaning, where we're no longer hiding behind positions and titles, but we are really tapping into who we are as human beings for one another. And if there's anyone else who'd like to reflect, feel free.
If there's any other feedback, we would love if you guys added in the chat, just because we're looking at the time frame right now. But again, I want to thank everyone who participated in our panels and who joined us today in our discussion. And I would like to pass it over to Tanya for our call to action.
Thank you very much. Really quickly, we'll go to call to action. I think the sign of any great session is that the call to action has truly been woven throughout our discussions over the past almost 2 hours here. So I'm actually just reiterating what Lorraine and the co-authors actually have been saying. I actually wanted this slide, as I was thinking about the call to action, to just be the word act. That's what we want to happen with the Community Bill of Rights. We encourage you to really share this widely within your organizations and institutions, with your friends, family, neighbors. Spread it through community, as well as our leaders who have a little more of the traditional power that we're trying to actually get into a little more of a balance. And we really see the Community Bill of Rights as being able to spark and start some discussions. You don't have to know exactly where it's going to go to just start the discussions with folks. I think it was Lorraine who actually talked about, we want community members to truly make this their own. I think the Community Bill of Rights is, a handful of pages, and it could be 100 pages long. So we want community members to truly, if there are some actions under some of the pillars that you think are missing, add those in. If there's a new pillar that you want added, make it your own to really align with your community values and efforts. We have a sort of pilot assessment that we've been working with a few folks on. So it takes those pillars and actions of the Community Bill of Rights and actually puts it in a assessment tool. And you can kind of rank your organization, your institution along those components. And I think more importantly than sort of the total ranking you get at the end is truly, how can the assessment be a good discussion starter for you on this journey. And then we're thinking about, so what does this really look like to roll up our sleeves and dig in to make it operational? So we're interested in possibly next year starting a pilot cohort with system and institutional leaders, along with co-authors and community members, to really dig in and give it teeth, as folks have been saying. And so if you're interested in what that work might look like, let us know. The email is at the bottom of the slide. And we actually want all of you to truly stay in touch with us and stay in contact with us. We'd love to know how you're using the Community Bill of Rights, how you've made it your own, who you're sharing with, what questions are coming up. And then certainly if you'd like to do more work with us in the coming year, a possible cohort, you want to get in touch with some of the co-authors for your own efforts, that's the email to keep in touch with us. Thank you all so much. And Tiffany, am I turning it over to you?
I think I'm not sure if someone's going to explain the thunderclap.
Oh, Shemeka, sorry.
Hey, I'm here. So the next part is where we can all this is the easy next step that you can do to jump in and get involved. So if you were wondering, oh my goodness, how can I really be active? Now's your time. Thunderclap is something I learned as an opportunity to put out a mass communication at the same time. We will be utilizing Twitter, but if you want to use Facebook or LinkedIn for your Thunderclap, please do. With this, we're putting the same information. You're going to see some links show up in the chat that you can just quickly copy and paste into Twitter, making sure that you include the hashtag Community Bill of Rights. That's our Thunderclap, is the hashtag Community Bill of Rights. And we are going to roar our voices with this shared language, the shared text, to amplify this so that people can get their eyes in our own networks, get their eyes on this Community Bill of Rights and how they can get involved. So if you will join me within the next 5 minutes to copy, just choose some text, copy and change whatever makes sense for your community in a language that is relatable to those that are in your following, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram, Facebook or LinkedIn. And just please make sure that you keep the bit.ly link, which goes to the Community Bill of Rights, so that they can see this incredible work, as well as using the hashtag Community Bill of Rights. So whatever you're doing right now, just come on with us. Let's do a thunderclap together, and intentionally posting this on our social media for the next 5 minutes, amplifying this so that people can see this incredible work and find ways to get connected through our network. So if you're wondering what can you do to start, this is how we're starting. We're thunderclapping together today. And thank you so much for your participation and your partnership. If you don't have social media, take the same text, copy and put it on your text thread and start texting people within your network with these links. The links still work, and the thunderclap power energy is still there, and your solidarity standing with us virtually with this thunderclap will still be felt.
Okay. So again, I'm Tiffany Wilson. I want to, as we close, thank everyone for their time and participation. One thing that I learned growing up was that, or I was taught, that love is sacrifice. Love is sacrifice for the benefit of the one loved. I was also, it was ingrained in me that my ability to love others was directly connected to my ability to love myself. So this particular work benefits all of us. What it will take from each of us to be the one that might be the only one in the room pushing the envelope. But just a reminder that a spark, I have my little guy here, that a spark definitely can start a flame. So as we close today, there is a video that we'll be sharing at the end here. Like I said, I'm a singer, a songwriter, and a teaching artist. This video is a work that I have written and had the honor of playing with a couple of friends of mine. And it is called It'll Catch On.
Of work.
It's just a matter of time, or so it seems. There's no more American dream. We're searching through the night, trying to survive with no more finer things. Where we headed? Tell me what's next. What can we make with what we got left? No God above, just the one within. And love is the foundation. Though we slip back into the past and undo all that we know and start again, long as we know the change is to grow, it'll catch on. Long as we know the change is to grow, it'll catch on. It'll catch on. Stranger things see the way this here unfolds. Humans in captivity, the heart of mankind gone cold. Though we slip back into the past and undo all that we know and start again, long as we know change is growth, it'll catch on. Ooh, long as we know change is growth, I know for sure, it'll catch on. Ooh, it'll catch on. We just might have to wait in the water. Wait in the water. Children, wait in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. We just might have to wait in the water. Wait in the water. Children, wait in the water. God gonna trouble the water, the water, the water, the water. Though we slip back into the past and undo all that we know and start again, I know we might slip back, back into the past and undo all that we know and start again. Oh, no, I don't wanna slip back now into the past, but I'll undo all that I know and start again. Long as we know changes grow, it'll catch on. Ooh, long as we know changes grow, it'll catch on. Oh no, one more time. I said as long as we know that changes grow, it'll catch on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Woo! Oh
Thank
my
you.
goodness, Stephanie. Woo!
Thank you.
Beautiful. I want it on my phone. I want it so I can play it in the car. I want that.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Be
you so
blessed.
much. Thank you.
Love to everyone, and please stay safe.
Thank you.